disaster tour. I'm Vivi, and I'll be your tour guide. Does everyone have a seat? Okay, good. Now listen up. Here's how it works. We can't tell you every story out of New Orleans. I mean, God, 250,000 people lost their homes. But these 12 folks are going to tell you exactly what happened. Now come on, these people paid good money, so let's get to it.
It was beautiful Saturday. I was doing my normal chores, the sun was shining. My sister was in her junior year. She had started school 2 weeks before.
I remember that Friday during my art class, somebody mentioning a storm.
Oh yeah, I heard about that. It's not supposed to be much of anything. Saturday night, she invited a friend over. They hung out. Oh, you know, hurricane.
Pish posh.
A lot of people had evacuated at that point.
But we hadn't decided to, and my friend hadn't decided to either.
So they were just hanging out, thinking they were, I don't know,
Badass.
I literally had no idea there was a storm in the Gulf at all. I woke up Saturday, it was a beautiful day. And my producer, I'm an actor and director, I had directed a show and it was like a hit. It had been extended in the producer column.
Should I call up the show?
Why? What are you talking about?
Well, there's a hurricane.
That's not a big deal. I was actually in Jackson, Mississippi for a teacher's conference that Saturday. My friend called.
What are you doing with your house? You can't come home.
Well, it'll sit there.
I think I'm going to call your parents and go with them to evacuate.
All right, whatever. I'll be back on Monday.
I stayed for every hurricane in like the last 17 years. They've all been a waste of time driving back with the traffic.
I was in the French Quarter. I've been working really hard on a bunch of different stuff. That Friday night, the storm coming, that sort of thing happens a lot. Every season there's an evacuation. Nothing ever happens. Or it gets called off at the last minute, and I thought that's what would happen.
They never left before. Why leave now? That was a lot of the mentality. A lot of people think people were poor and couldn't get out, but every year you have at least one evacuation. I was working at a restaurant, and my bosses were getting the kids ready and stuff ready to leave, and we closed the restaurant down early, so screw it, pick a weekend.
I was tired. I was ready to take a break from everybody, and I had a stack of movies and a bunch of food. I like to cook, and I'm just like, I'm gonna stay in all weekend in my backyard, in my bedroom, and cook my grill and watch movies. I'm gonna take a break.
I didn't leave because, well, I'm stupid. And my parents live on the West Bank. They didn't leave.
We had lived through hurricanes before.
Not category 5, but I remember when I was 12 years old, down at my grandmother's in Key West, Florida, to board up her house, staying in some hurricanes in this godforsaken ninth ward type environment.
Don't worry, this house was built by slaves or it'll float.
I don't care how many slaves this guy brought across, it's not gonna float.
Some people. See, people have gone through hurricanes before, and a lot of people reference Betsy. A lot of people stayed during Betsy in '65 and survived, and they kind of knew that if they get up in the attic, they had a way to get out, and even if the water comes, eventually it would recede, and that would be that. A lot of people just chose to ride the storm out.
My grandfather never left for hurricanes, but grandmother always evacuated whether he came with her or not. Every hurricane. Didn't matter how little or how big. She would take all of her dogs and all the insurance papers and go to this hotel in Hattiesburg. She had this routine down over the years. It was usually this weekend holiday. We go to a hotel or go on tea and check out this little tiny town that we'd managed to find in like Mississippi or something. So my sister spent the car ride doing her homework, assuming that she'd be back in school on Monday.
I'd actually worked Saturday before the storm. I was supposed to work until 11 that night, but my husband...
I want you to leave by 5 o'clock Sunday morning. So you can't work until 11. I'll pick up everything in the yard that can blow away and you pack.
No, when Lindsay was 6 months old, we evacuated to Houston. We packed up all this baby stuff and everything, and we were gone for 2 days and then came back.
Well, it sounds really bad.
We're going to drive for 2 days and then we're going to be home, just like last time. I'm not packing all this baby stuff for 2 days.
Because our drill is this. The storm comes, you pack up, you leave. You stay gone 2-3 days.
We got word that the office should be closed up. Start packing. I closed up when I went home. The other guys went home. Definitely. Probably be seeing each other by Tuesday.
This is a hurricane. The power's going to go out, the wind's going to come, we're going to come back in, everything will be okay. My mother literally left with 2 or 3 days worth of clothing. Being a Jewish mother, she took food.
I remember the year before, I went with my roommate to her home, and it was a beautiful sunny day, and nothing happened in Hammond but a little drizzle.
George, in '98, we were gone 3 days. And for Ivan, in 2004, we were gone for 3 days. This was going to be another 3-day trip.
You tell New Orleanians to leave for a hurricane, it's a 2-day thing.
3 days.
We were told to pack for 3 days.
Our checklist did consist of only 3 days worth of clothes.
We figured it would be 3 days, and then we would be back.
Except for when Katrina came, it did a
Saturday, August 28, 2005. Voluntary evacuation of the city via contraflow will begin at 4 p.m. Contraflow is the method we use to evacuate. We turn the interstate into a one-way street, leaving the city.
We managed to go all the way up to Memphis this time, which was something we'd never done. And we went with the contraflow.
Which was really fun.
They turned all the highways out.
Look at those shirts. Go with the contraflow. Let's get some.
If you think about the hurricane, there's a lot of poor people. It was at the end of the month, and a lot of people usually get paid on the 1st and the 3rd by way of some kind of government check or whatever. So at the end of the month, they really don't have any money at all. So unless there was some assistance to get out of the city, they didn't have a way to get out. They couldn't even buy the way.
I went home and decided to get my wife and son out. My wife is diabetic, and the reason why I didn't go with them is because I didn't have enough money to pay for me and to get all her needles, insulin, and medication. She and my son went to her sister's in Dallas, and I stayed thinking that, you know, we might get a little water, but I'll get things cleaned up by the time they get back.
On Saturday, there were 4 of us left on this block. 2 families over there, 1 family over here, and myself. My wife was gone, left to go see our daughter.
Clean the backyard, stow everything, go out front, board up our front windows.
I had pre-positioned everything. I went down our checklist. Bank records, any jewelry, coins, money, traveler's checks, insurance, warranties, important legal documents, passports, key to safety deposit boxes, wills, all computers. 3, I'm a computer technology specialist. Systems backups, CD-ROMs, pictures, videotapes of family, photo albums.
No pictures. That's in my head. I rarely take a photograph. I don't want to. That means nothing to me.
All our cameras, prescription medicines. We lost a grandson. He lasted 7 days, and so his picture. Our other grandchildren are doing fantastic. Let's see. My wife has a recipe box. She wants her recipe box. That was not going to be left for hurricanes.
My mother had a gut feeling because she was here for Betsy, and she was like, maybe we need to leave. My sister and I just packed duffel bags with t-shirts and shorts. Then she grabbed her basketball and her trophies.
Aren't you going to take your diplomas?
I'm leaving them. I'm sorry I didn't take them, but I took my bills in case anything did happen, in case I had to call creditors or whatever.
I have a bag packed right now, and it stays packed. I have a case of water always in my car. Always. Bare essentials, tuna fish and cans or pouches, nuts, raisins, toilet paper.
Everything was in the car. I wasn't watching TV. I do know how to read satellite data, and I don't listen to reporters. I think they are talking heads who will do just anything to get a story. And they always exaggerate. They usually don't know squat. They just read scripts, you know? And they look so profound and empty. They don't know science. Couldn't read a satellite. Couldn't even find north if they had a compass. I just don't like them, obviously. So anyway, I got a call from a neighbor at 5 o'clock Sunday morning.
We're leaving. I think Bob and Lois are going. The Siddles are leaving too.
What's going on?
Put on your TV.
So I went to the TV and they were hallucinating about Category 5 and how Katrina was going to hit us straight on. And I went to my computer and looked at the data.
The storm did not go where they said it was supposed to. It was sitting off the coast of Florida on Wednesday, and it was supposed to cross into the Miami area and then enter the Gulf of Mexico. It was only supposed to be a Category 1 storm, and it wasn't supposed to come this way at all.
It hit Florida, did as much devastation as a Category 1, then immediately got to the Gulf of Mexico. Katrina became a Category 5 in 24 hours and quadrupled in size and in strength. It looked initially like it was going to come this way, then it turned back towards Mississippi.
I'm sorry for Mississippi, but I hate to say it. When you're in a hurricane zone and you see a hurricane, you pray it goes anywhere but where you are. You know, it's not very nice. It's very selfish, but that's a fact. Because the people in Florida, the people in Mississippi, they're all doing the same thing. Don't let it hit us.
Friday night when we went to bed, the storm had turned and was going back towards the east. And when we woke up Sunday morning, all of a sudden it turned again and began to come back towards New Orleans.
Well, it was clear we were going to get clipped. So I got into my car. I checked my watch. 6 a.m. and I'm sitting there, and it was bumper to bumper.
So basically, here we are, Sunday before the storm. The news media is predicting the very worst. You've got a mandatory evacuation. Everybody's got to know.